All right, and we'll kind of start over just with this recording starting happening. Again, Tim O'Neill with the Labor Market Information Office at DEED. We just concluded an overview of Minnesota's labor market, looking at the tight labor market conditions, some of those resources that we went over in that beginning of the presentation. You can find within mn.gov/DEED, and then you can go to the DEED data tab and then hover down and look at data tools, and you'll see that we have 20 plus information tools, labor market information tools, with some of those that we just covered, including current employment statistics and local area unemployment statistics. For those that are joining here today, and if you're new to the DEED website and DEED labor market information, I'll be going over some career tools now. If you are not new to these tools or information, it's nice to have a little refresher every once in a while. So feel free to sit back and relax with a snack or a beverage, and we'll be going over some of those career tools now. So before we get to those career tools though, one more logistic, and that is when you are on the main DEED website at mn.gov/DEED, hover over the data tab, scroll down and click on LMI Help. And that's where, if you don't want to dig into the DEED data tools, if you have any issues with them at all, if you have any feedback for us, positive or negative, or if you just want to have a conversation about clients that you're helping out or endeavors that you're looking into, feel free again to hover over the data tab, click on LMI Help, and that's where you can find labor market analysts or just generally reaching out to the Labor Market Information Office by phone or by email. And so if I click on labor market analysts here, that's where you can see the leadership in our office, Angelina Wen and Orion Casal, my supervisor, Cameron, and scrolling down, all of those regional labor market analysts that are throughout the regions of the state of Minnesota. We're here to help you out. A couple more things with logistics when you're navigating the DEED websites and labor market information tools is that you can click right on the data tab as well. So you can hover over it. There's a lot of options there. It can be a little bit overwhelming, but also you can click right on the data tab. And then this is pretty much the home base for the Labor Market Information Office online. And that's where, again, you can see scrolling down that same LMI Help link here. And then you can also see the data tools. And when you click on data tools here, and you'd actually get the same page if you clicked on data tools right under the data tab if you're hovering. You get this list that shows the 20 plus information data tools that we have. And in this case, you also get a little description of what these tools are all about. So it's nice to not have to go through trial and error of finding that right data tool for yourself. You can read all about it, and then you can click right on the blue link to enter that tool. So that's one of the biggest kind of maybe takeaways that you can have for the presentation here and overview of our DEED labor market tools and the website. Keep your eye out for blue links and tabs, the little radio buttons and regular square buttons. We love blue links and tabs. So when you're exploring the website, if you're navigating through any of the DEED data tools, just keep that in mind that a lot of these data tools are connected. There's going to be a lot more information if you're looking out for those blue links and tabs. One more note on navigating the DEED website too. Again, you can hover over the data tab and any of these options below. You can click into the data tab itself, or you can also, when you're at any of the other data tools, you'll see on the left-hand side of the screen that there's one more navigation panel, alphabetically listed, so you can kind of go in between the data tools that we have fairly quickly that way. Before we get into specific data tools, we already covered LMI Help. A couple of other things that you can do, you can click into regional labor markets. And if you want to learn more about kind of the overview, we went over the quick overview of Minnesota's labor market at the beginning, talking about tight labor markets, talking about industries, talking about labor force trends, whether it's low unemployment or what's going on with the labor force size. If you want to learn more about that in your local area, again, one more time, hovering over data and clicking on regional labor markets, you can select your region and then you can read all about it within all of the options below. So like I mentioned before, keep your eye out for blue links and tabs. There's a number of tabs along the top here. There's blue links in here to read regional profiles. Some of these are pretty lengthy, so Get excited about those. If you don't want to read lengthy geographic profiles, we also have blogs that we update once a month on something new and exciting or trending that you're definitely welcome to check out and read. And then last thing that you'll see within these regional labor market sections is contact. So just one more way to find your local labor market analyst. Reach out to them with any small or big questions. And then one more thing before we get into the data tools themselves. We've covered LMI help for reaching out to us. We've covered regional labor markets for learning more about your local area. And then the last thing I'll mention here is under the data tab, or if you selected right into the data tab there, you'll find this section called research and publications. And here you can see that we've got a number of different categories as well as two main publications. And those publications include Minnesota Employment Review, which is a monthly publication, and then Minnesota Economic Trends, which is a quarterly publication. So if you never want to hear a presentation on labor market data, if you don't want to dig into the data tools, but you still want to know what's going on in the state of Minnesota or your local area, I would suggest bookmarking or checking out these publications and reading all about it. So we'll, as a labor market information office, part of DEED, a part of the state of Minnesota, we're constantly keeping up with data, keeping up with the trends, whether it's in the labor force or it's with industries or occupations, with its demographics, the changing face of Minnesota and its workforce. We're keeping an eye on a lot of stuff. So it's a lot of things that we try to write about and bring out so you can read them online here. And then below that, you'll see that there's just a number of different topics that we try to keep up to date with as well, including hiring difficulties in Minnesota, the importance of immigration, racial disparities, the path to career success, generations in the workplace, and some others. So the rest of the drop-down section in here, or if you were to select right on the data tab, it's just kind of bonus information. You can check out economic analysis, workforce data, and then you'll see that we have our data tools kind of categorized by different sections. So for those that are joining here today, we're now moving on to the next section. We're done with an overview of Minnesota's labor market. We're done with kind of navigating the nuts and bolts of the DEED website at mn.gov/DEED, as well as the labor market information website at mn.gov/DEED/data. Now we're moving into that next section, and you'll see I'll be zooming in on those data tools that you'll see in data for job seekers. So you'll find, again, one more time, those within the data tab, as well as hovering over in data tools listed alphabetically. But here, if you wanted to, if you're helping out job seekers a lot and you're helping out career seekers and students, you can bookmark data for job seekers. And then these are those main data tools that will be most beneficial for you and for them. So you'll see Career and Education Explorer, you'll see Career Pathways and Employment Outlook, Graduate Employment Outcomes, if you're looking to help out those that are considering post-secondary education, and what are the typical outcomes for different awards and award levels, and even specific schools within that Graduate Employment Outcomes data tool. Job Vacancy Survey, looking at hiring demand. Match jobs to experience. Let's say you have job seekers or clients that are coming to you and they have a work history. And with that work history, you can put in occupational titles, what they've done in their past. And then this tool, this Match Jobs to Experience tool, will provide a list of similar occupations based off the skill sets and the job responsibilities for those jobs that you put in there. So just kind of a cool tool, Match Jobs to Experience, to broaden your horizons or open job seekers' eyes to what are some other opportunities that are out there that I might be able to do or more easily go for based off of my background. Scrolling down a little bit, we also have one of our more popular tools, Occupational Employment and Wage Statistics. And this is a tool that's pretty extensive. We actually get excited. We just updated it this month. This is a tool that you can look up specific wages, starting wages, median wages, aspirational wages for over 800 specific occupations for the state of Minnesota and for the planning regions of the state of Minnesota. So it's a really popular tool for career seekers if they're looking to get that idea of what are typical starting wages or median wages for jobs that I might be considering, If I'm going into that interview, if I do get that question of what might you think you should earn in this occupation, they can maybe go right spot on with looking at the data. And then, of course, businesses are looking into this information when they're looking to hire or benchmark the wages that they've got to what are they seeing from other industries and businesses out there. Occupations in demand, we'll be going over this tool soon. This is a tool that we combine a lot of our labor market data, job vacancy survey data, occupational employment and wage statistics data, unemployment insurance statistics. We combine those tools, that data, into one package, this occupations in demand tool. And that's where you can see what is the most in-demand occupation based off of local labor market data for the state of Minnesota or your region, and then what's the least in-demand occupation. And then from there, there's some bonus information on wages, on post-secondary education requirements, or just if it's a high school diploma or less that's needed, and then also training requirements. Path to Career Success. This is a great tool for students and other job seekers that has some narrative to it and some videos just on what are some paths that I might be expecting to run into, or paths that I might be able to discover within the state of Minnesota. And then finally, links to careerforcemn.com. There's a lot of labor market information that we are providing now within careerforcemn.com, that platform that job seekers, career seekers can sign up for. Businesses can use. You can look up hiring events and career fairs, job network clubs, and just having those connections between job seekers and businesses be all the more stronger within CareerForce. And then finally, one more time, worth reiterating, if you're checking out this training session in the future with this recording, or if you're just looking for help going forward, clicking on LMI help, reaching out to us anytime. We're happy to help out with anything at all having to do with the Labor Market Information Office, the data tools that we have, or even other areas outside of that, such as through the Bureau of Labor Statistics or careeronestop.org, ONET Online, and other resources that are out there looking at the labor market. So it's been a lot. It seems probably to you like it's just a non-ending kind of stream of introductions and looking through navigating the DEED website and the Labor Market Information Office. We've made it through the nuts and bolts of navigating the website and getting through some high-level stuff and steps that you need to take once you're at the DEED website, again, at mn.gov/DEED. If there's no questions, we'll continue on. So feel free to pipe in if you do have questions. Let me know if I'm talking too fast. I can get excited about this stuff, and the speed of how I'm talking goes up. But we'll be going into some of the data tools now. So the first data tool that we're going to look into, I'm going to hover over data. I'm going to hover over data tools, scroll down. I'm going to click right on occupations in demand. And then one more time, I think this bears once more repeating. You can also click on the data tab and click on data tools. And then this is where you can scroll down and find that exact same link, looking at high demand jobs for each region of the state, along with typical wages and training. And you click right on that blue link. So I'm going to take a little bit longer, as you're seeing, with just reiterating how to navigate to these different data tools. And then I'll be a little bit longer in the beginning of this tool too, because it's showing how our data tools are set up. So essentially, you'll get the title of the tool at the top, Occupations in Demand. This is what we're looking into. You'll get a little description then below that. So what is this tool all about? So just like a sentence or two on what you're getting yourself into. Below that, if you want to, you didn't even need to check out this training session. We do have some printable tutorials that you can check out, read them, hand them out to job seekers and career seekers so that they can learn more about how to navigate these data tools. And then some of our data tools even have links to YouTube where you can watch a little brief overview of how to navigate these tools. And then below that, you'll see, remember, keep your eye out for blue links and tabs. We've got a couple of tabs here. In About section, just more information on, in this case, the Occupations in Demand tool. Who can use it? Where's the information coming from? A methodology tab. All of our data tools will have a methodology tab, and that gets into the finer details of where are we getting this information? How are we cleaning it up? How are we publishing it online? and what does it provide you with those sources of that information. And then finally, a glossary. So some of these tools, there's just a lot of labor market terms. There's a lot of lingo and technical phrases and such. So if you're not sure what quite these phrases or this lingo means, check out the glossary section. Some of the data tools will also have like a more data tab. And again, we work very closely with the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And so you can check out in some cases other state or national wide data. Scrolling back up to the top though, again, we've gone to the data tab. We've selected occupations in demand. We've read all about it, what we're getting ourselves into. We want to check it out. So on all of our data tools, if you want to actually enter the data tool itself, keep your eye out for that blue link that might says data tool up here, or use the data tool button, highlights in green, can't miss it. You go ahead and click right on that. This will open up a new page, and this is where we are now getting into labor market information. So labor market information does have a lot of data. You're going to run into some charts and some tables and some figures, and it can be a little bit overwhelming at first. And that's why I think it's great that you're checking out this tutorial here today. So thanks for joining us again on this Monday at the beginning of the week here. With learning more about these data tools, I think once you start to look at these data tables, look at the charts that we have or the figures that we have, you'll start to see pretty quickly that they're not too overwhelming. But again, it's nice to have you going through this. So for job seekers and students and others that just might get overwhelmed more quickly and steer away from these tools, it's nice that you're able to look into this, you're able to understand what it's telling you, and then you can relay that information off to them. So in this case, first I'll just go to the table right away, and you'll see that there's a lot of columns. If you're looking through the column headers, you'll see that there's the SOC codes, Standard Occupational Classification. It's just kind of a way of organizing occupations based off of their occupational family, their grouping, based off of responsibilities and their work functions. So things like healthcare support, construction trades, production occupations. Then we have the job title. So this is probably something that this tool is much more familiar with to you right off the bat. This is something that this tool is all about. What are those occupations at the top that are the most in demand based off of local labor market data? And then scrolling down, you see that we have almost 600 occupations that we track with this tool. Then what's the least in demand? Going to the next two columns, current demand rank and current demand indicator. Keep your eye more on the current demand indicator. So based off the local labor market data, if the job has 3, 4, or 5 stars, that job is in demand, with 5 stars being the most in demand. And so we rank it from the most in demand to the least in demand. When you're scrolling down, you'll get to those 1 and 2 star jobs that are not as in demand. That's not to say that if you have a job seeker or a client that wants to go for those jobs, that they can't get them, they're not present at all. But it will mean that it is more difficult to go for those jobs based off that local labor market data. So that's what the tool is all about, just from the most in-demand job to the least in-demand job. The rest of the columns here, bonus information. So you can look up the 25th percentile wages, close to starting wages here. You can look up median wages, half are earning more, half are earning less. You can look up the projections. So in this case, 2020 through 2030, 10-year long-term projections for employment growth. So we've got the percentage increase, and we also have the net new plus replacement openings that you see here. So I'll just kind of dig into this a little bit. In the first case, you see home health and personal care aides, the #1 most in-demand job in the state of Minnesota. Median wage $35,500 a year at the statewide level. You see that it's projected to grow incredibly fast, 24.1% through 2030. And that's equivalent to 171,200 plus jobs. And that's net new and replacement jobs. And so this is when you're looking at home health aides, increased demand for healthcare services, especially at-home care services, as our baby boomer generation ages, as we see aging generally across Minnesota's population. We're seeing a big demand for things like home health aides and personal care aides. But we're also seeing replacement openings. So this is an occupation that does have some turnover, and that's what this is also reflecting here with this number. Any questions so far? Okay, I'll keep going on.
I have a question.
Oh, you do have a question. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I know like you're the data person, so I don't know if this will be like something that is for you per se, but you know, when we see something like that where it's like home health aides um is like such a growing industry, but it's not really like a livable wage for Twin Cities area. Um, are there like is like there action steps or something going from that to like how do we get this job to be a livable wage?
Yeah, great question. That's definitely something that you do see with an occupation like this. And it's really eye-opening too when you're looking at home health and personal care aides, the skill sets that are required, the job responsibilities that these workers have, what they're doing every day, the vital, important things that they're doing every day for Minnesotans that are looking for that assistance. So the jobs are super valuable, but like you brought up, you see that the starting and the median wages are lower, 35,500 per year at the statewide level. I do know that there's been some legislative efforts to get wage increases for this occupation, these types of jobs. I know that there's some complications when it comes to wage increases for home health and personal care aides. I'm not an expert in that area, but I do know that there's some things that get in the way of that. But that does bring up a good point where we can look at this data, we can look at the responsibilities, we can look at the demand, and from there we can start to tackle and try to promote and work on getting wage increases for this type of occupation. So that's one way that you can use this data. The other way that you could use it too is you do see there's higher turnover. So that's showing that maybe home health aides, personal care aides, the wages just aren't meeting the cost of living. So they're maybe looking for new work opportunities. They're getting that experience as a home health aide or a PCA and moving on to occupations with higher wages, such as licensed vocational and licensed practical nurses, LPNs, or registered nurses even further down the line. So that's one way that you might look at it too.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. You do see also, one more thing I'll bring up, retail salespersons. You see that we're projecting it to decline by 3% through 2030 at the statewide level, but then you see 101,000 plus job openings. Again, that includes replacement openings. So just like home health and personal care aides above it, there might be a lot of turnover, might include burnout, it might include just folks that are looking for new work opportunities with higher wages. That kind of brings back at the beginning of our presentation. If you remember, we saw a lot of turnover, a lot of job transitioning in motion, especially for those jobs that have lower wages. And so that reflects that. So all of those 101,000 jobs, it's mainly going to be replacement openings. We're actually expecting the total size, in this case, of retail salespersons to contract through 2030. But within that huge occupation, there's tens of thousands of retail salespersons in the state of Minnesota. There's going to still be some openings, and it's going to be reflected in this tool as showing this is a job that's in high demand. There might be occupations that have really low growth, but because they're so big, they've got a lot of openings. There might be jobs that have really significant percentage growth through 2030. But because they're smaller occupations, it might show smaller overall numeric openings. So hopefully that kind of brings back the stats that you might have done in the past, or just provides that overview, that quick overview of what these two columns are telling us for projected growth rates and tenure openings, including, again, both net new and replacement openings. The final columns then are looking at some of those skill sets, education, training that employers will be looking for. Under the education.
Tim?
Yeah, go ahead.
Tim, share your screen again.
Can you not see my screen right now?
It's very small.
My screen is very small.
I can see it.
Okay.
See it.
If the screen is small on your side, Look in the upper right, you might need to blow it up a little bit. You can do it
Okay,
that way.
right. Okay, sorry.
Oh, no worries. So hopefully you can see, I can blow up my side of the equation here. Here we go. So under the education requirements, one thing I will say is that it's looking at the typical education required for entry. So if you're looking at like registered nurse, for example, you see associate degree. There's some positions that you can become a registered nurse with that 2-year that associate degree award. But if you're looking into the finer data there with registered nurses, you'll see that the majority of registered nurses do have that 4-year degree. So there's going to be some more competition there, and it's going to probably require that longer term outlook at getting that 4-year degree. But again, typical education required for entry. And then the on-the-job training requirements, essentially looking at short-term or long-term on-the-job training requirements. With all of this, remember the blue links, you can click on any of these column headers to put it in ascending or descending order. And then just a couple of more tips and tricks. So this is the main tool we've looked at, from the most in demand to the least in demand. We've looked at some bonus information on wages and projections and education and training. There's a couple of more tips and tricks though. At the top of almost all of our DEED data tools, you can filter the data, or you can click on these buttons to export it to Excel. You can actually start a new search here too, which it's not super intuitive, but if I were to click on Start New Search here, I can filter this data down to the regional level. So I can click on any of these options here or click right on the map. And once I do that, I can then hit the View Data. So this is another tip and trick for DEED labor market information tools. With a lot of our tools, there's going to be some options for selecting maybe industries or occupations or geographies, maybe filtering of the data at the top of the screen. If you make any changes with any of the data tools that you're in, once you've selected those changes, keep your eye out for buttons like this, where it says View Data, or it might say Go with an exclamation point, or it might say something like Get Filtered Results. So keep your eye out for that after you're making those changes, and go ahead and click on it. So now that we did that, we see that instead of looking at the default of Minnesota, we're now looking at occupations in demand for Southeast Minnesota. So the 7 counties of Southeast Minnesota, a lot of healthcare concentration in that region, of course. So we're seeing a lot of the same home health and personal care aides, registered nurses. We're also seeing some transportation types of jobs, though: truck drivers, laborers and freight stock and material movers. And then all the wages, the demand, the education requirements, all that kind of stuff is now filtered for that new region that you picked. So that's by clicking on Start New Search in the Occupations in Demand tool. Again, you can export either the most in-demand jobs or all of the jobs to Excel, play around with it in Excel. And then you'll also see one more thing here with filtering. You can filter the table below, the data that it shows, by wages. And then you can also filter it by education. So let's say that we had job seekers or clients coming to us that had a high school diploma or equivalent. I would highlight and select that. And then remember, look out for those buttons to update the table then. So I'll hit Get Filtered Results. And now the table below, Southeast Minnesota, we're just looking at those occupations that we selected for looking at a high school diploma or equivalent. And you can see that here. They're all high school diploma or equivalent. And so we can help out then by looking at what are those jobs in demand. And this is a great tool, I believe, to go to first for those that might not have any idea of what they want to do. Just get an idea of what are those jobs that are in demand. And then from there, we can start to do some career exploration, looking at the nuts and bolts of these jobs in terms of, again, the education, the wages, and so on. 3 more tips or tricks for this tool. You can do a specific keyword search. So let's say we wanted to look for welders. Click correctly. So we'll throw in welder. We'll hit the Get Filtered Results button. And then actually, I'm going to go to all education categories, Get Filtered Results. There we go. So we'll see welders then. So we did that keyword search, we hit the get filtered results, and then instead of looking through 500 plus or close to 500 occupations, we get right to that one that we might be looking for. And then the last two tips or tricks with this occupations in demand tool. Remember the blue links and tabs. There's two of them within the table itself for all the occupations. One is under the job title column, and then you'll also see blue links under the education requirements column. So if I were to click under the job titles column, right on that job title, this brings us on over to one of our other data tools actually called the Occupational Employment and Wage Statistics tool. This is a tool that looks at wages more specifically. It's updated annually. We just updated this tool about 2 weeks ago, and it's now reflecting first quarter of 2024. And then this is the nuts and bolts of this data tool. We'll see that in Southeast Minnesota, there's approximately 1,130 welders, and the median wage for these welders in that region, $25.63 an hour. And then you'll see starting wages, and you'll also see aspirational wages. Below, you'll also see welders, of course, mainly in manufacturing, but this is an area where you can see that there are jobs that are spread throughout different industry sectors. And if you are in an occupation, maybe like a truck driver or retail salesperson, or especially IT jobs can be amongst different industry sectors. This is where you can see how that distribution is, and then how those median wages actually might change, might be higher or might be lower, depending on if you're an occupation, specific occupation in a different type of industry. You'll get a quick look at other regions of the state. You'll get related occupations, and you can click on their blue links to go to their occupational employment and wage statistics profile. And then below that, you get some tasks that we took from ONET Online. So one more time, that was by clicking on the blue link under the job title column in the Occupations in Demand tool. So we've only really started looking at one tool, Occupations in Demand, from the main DEED website at mn.gov/DEED. And this is where you can start to see that by clicking on the blue links or the tabs, we can look into new information, we can look at more detailed data, and then we can also get, in this case, links to even some of the other data tools that will provide a little bit more information on that specific area. The last tip or trick then with this Occupations in Demand tool is the blue link under the Education Requirements tab. So I'm gonna actually start a new search with statewide Minnesota, hit View Data. And then I'm gonna click on maybe Registered Nurse Associate Degree. And then this is giving us a list. We clicked on that blue link, Associate Degree, under Education Requirements column. And this is showing us those post-secondary institutions or other institutions that are offering programs or certifications to go for that type of occupation. So you'll see the school name, the location, the program title, WIOA certification or WIOA, award levels offered, and then program length. And you can click on these school names, this award level, to learn more about that specific school, that institution, and the award level offered. So it's pretty great having this one tool. It's almost like a one-stop for labor market data, looking at occupational data. Again, the main picture for Occupations in Demand, self-explanatory, looking at occupations in demand. And then having the bonus data of wages, education, training. You can filter it by throwing it into Excel. You can filter it by region by clicking on Start New Search. You can filter it by education, wage, or a specific job title, and then get filtered results. And they can even look at some bonus data under the job title column and under the education requirements column. And that is our first tool. Do a little management of the web pages here. Is there any further questions on Occupations in Demand? Okay, we are about halfway through. We're making it, everybody. I did go through this Occupations in Demand tool a little bit slower, but now that we know how to navigate the DEED website at mn.gov/DEED or the main DEED labor market information sites at mn.gov/DEED/data, and then going to the specific data tools and such, Now that we've kind of learned that, I've been a little redundant to being a little circular with showing how to do that. Now I'll go through some of those other data tools a little bit quicker. So with that in mind, though, definitely unmute, ask questions, let me know if I'm going too fast, and I'll be able to help out that way. So the second data tool I'm going to show you is called Career and Education Explorer. So hovering over data and then data tools, I'll go to the Career and Education Explorer tool. And this is a tool, I've said this in previous presentations, but there's actually a test site for it now. So we're getting pretty close. We'll be updating this tool, making it more accessible, especially for tablets and mobile devices. So get excited for that. But for the time being, still continue to check it out. Definitely let us know if you're finding it useful or if you're finding some trouble with it. And we might still be able to get some feedback in for improving this tool. But it's still an excellent tool to use, and using this and going into this tool next actually kind of shows the power of labor market information. Each of our tools on their own, cool stuff, great stuff. We can look into a lot of different types of data, but it's when you start to use our data tools together in concert with one another that we can get a really great understanding for maybe looking at the labor market or regional labor markets, different industries and geographies, different populations and demographics. And in this case, occupations in demand. Let's say we saw that welders was an occupation that's in high demand. We have job seekers that are coming to us. They're looking for work opportunities in today's labor market. Maybe they don't have the resources to go for extensive levels of post-secondary education, but they want to support themselves and their families. We went to occupations in demand again. We saw that welders, that might be one of those jobs that they could go for. And now let's check out the Career and Education Explorer tool. So it's very similar to occupations in demand. If we scroll down, we actually see that it's grabbing a lot of that same information that the occupations in demand tool has. But now, instead of where occupations in demand was looking at the relative demand of 500 or so occupations at once, with the Career and Education Explorer tool, we're looking into one occupation at a time. So check out the About section, the data sources, maybe these tutorials if you would like to, but I'm going to go right into this tool. So this is an area here where we're going to be getting a little facelift, especially for those more mobile devices. But for the time being, when you're on the Career and Education Explorer tool, you'll basically have two options here, exploring by careers and exploring by education. For the purposes of this presentation here today, I'll be focusing on Explore Careers. But I will say that with this tool, this is where educational institutions throughout the state are inputting their programming through the Eligible Training Provider List, or ETPL. And this is where the links are at the top here, where they can start to do that process. Below that, you also see that you can start over at any point through careers or education, or even links to careerforcemn.com and looking for CareerForce locations. But I'll show you an example of using this Career and Education Explorer tool by clicking on Explore Careers. So I've mentioned data tabs and blue links, little radio buttons and regular square buttons, and a lot of data tools cases, including and especially the Career and Education Explorer tool, especially in its current iteration. Also, definitely keep your eye out for drop-down menus. So I'll show you an example here. Let's do that keyword search now for welder. We saw that it was in demand, so I'll hit enter here. You can also, if you don't know what specific job to go for, you can look through the 22 major occupational groups. And then from there, you'll get another drop-down menu to find those specific occupations within that major occupational group. So yes, just keep your eye out as this page updates once you make selections for those continued drop-down menus. For the purposes of this example, though, I threw in welder as a keyword search, and I'll hit the enter button. And then again, drop-down menus. So I'll select this drop-down menu here. I'll highlight and click on the occupation I'm looking for. In this case, welders, cutters, solderers, and brazers. We're now done with step one, so we'll move on down to step two, choosing a region. So in this case, we can either do statewide or local. So I'll select local. And from there, the drop-down menu options are finding your region, which are the 87 counties, or finding here the economic development regions. The economic development regions, there's 11 of them in the state of Minnesota. As a labor market analyst, I'm actually not entirely sure of the specific counties that are within the economic development regions in greater Minnesota. In the Twin Cities metro, the area that I cover, it's the same exact area as the planning region: Anoka, Carver, Dakota, Hennepin, Ramsey, Scott, and Washington counties. But you don't really have to remember or know about the EDRs. I would say that if you are selecting a county here, like Anoka County, or whatever county that you choose, it will automatically select that correct economic development region. And it'll show you what's included right here. So we are now done with steps 1, choosing your occupation, and step 2, choosing your region. Remember what I mentioned before? Keep your eye out for like a go button or a get filtered results button. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and select the go button. And then this is that profile page that is currently set up. Again, we'll be having a facelift here soon. But in this case, we selected welders. We've got that 6-digit SOC code. And I mentioned that because the SOC codes we saw was in the occupations in demand tool. You saw it on the far left-hand side of that table. This is also something where I'll quickly show you just a quick tangent here. If you are familiar with O-Net Online, keep using it, bookmark it, check it out. If you're not familiar, I'll throw this in the resources that I send all of you after this presentation. But O-Net Online is something where you can look up SOC codes pretty quickly if you don't know what they're all about. So let's say I was looking up welder. And it here, and then you'll see that it has the 6-digit SOC code there. I can also look up welder this way by hitting the go button. And then it has a bunch of different occupations with their associated 6-digit SOC code. So I can look through these blue links, read all about tasks, tools, and technology, abilities, and all that kind of stuff that current workers and occupations are surveyed about. So O-Net is a great resource for that reason. But I like to use O-Net in my case sometimes for looking up maybe occupational titles that I might not know what the SOC code is right away, or how it lines up with DEED labor market information and Bureau of Labor Statistics information. So I found that SOC code there, and then I can use that within any of the DEED data tools to know that those occupations are the ones that I'm looking for. So we've got the SOC code, we've got the job title here, we've got a little description, typical job titles, hourly wage. So this is that data from our occupational employment and wage statistics data tool. So welders within the 7-county metro area are typically earning between $24.83 and $31.19 an hour. So that's from the 25th percentile to the 75th percentile, which is essentially looking at that middle 50%. So it's not the median wage, but this analysis here is showing us a little bit broader look at what would I be expected to earn as a welder in the 7-county metro. Below that, you see the continued links from some of our other tools. You'll see the 5 stars from our occupations in demand tool. This is a job, welders, that's in demand in the 7-county metro. And then a further connection to our projections data, 10-year openings, net new plus replacement openings, about 4,500 net new and replacement openings in the 7-county metro. Below that, we kind of saw this within that occupational employment and wage statistics. Remember, we were in the occupations in demand tool. We clicked on the blue link under job title. In that case, we were looking at registered nurses, and we saw how those, or it might have been welders too there. Anyway, if you click on that job title under the occupations in demand tool, we saw this table in that route that we took there. So this is showing us what are the median wages and estimated employment for the specific job that we picked, in this case, welders, for different industries. Educational requirements, typical education needed to get this job. Sometimes there are these NAs, and if you're running into NAs or data that you're just not finding, this gives us an example of reach out to your local labor market analyst and we'll help you out with that. And then finally, related education, and this is those links to the education side of this data tool, the Career and Education Explorer tool, again, with the links to the eligible training and provider list, or that ETPL. So if I were to click on, for instance, welding technology and welder, similar to the occupations in demand, remember the column education requirements gave us that kind of brief look at educational institutions offering programming for that specific occupation. Same exact thing here. In this case, we'll get a little bit finer data though on the educational offering, institution, and award. For instance, if I select welding, Anoka Technical College, you'll see that's quite a bit more information on this specific program, in this case through Anoka Technical College. And you can even click on the blue link within this. So the blue links are everywhere to head on over to their website and learn more about the programming that they have there in terms of welding, in this case, the faculty, and all that other information that you can find. And so between our Occupations in Demand tool and our Career and Education Explorer tool, using these tools together, again, getting that relative demand, starting out that search, heading on over to the Career and Education Explorer tool, and learning more about what's the education like, what kind of education is needed, what kind of pathways can I take, looking up specific educational institutions, and then in some cases, applying for jobs. So that's one of the cool things about this Career and Education Explorer tool as well. A few more quick tricks and tips at the top and bottom of each profile that you run into at the very end here with the Career and Education Explorer tool. You'll see these blue links for wages, demand, education, on the job, and applying for jobs. So I was mentioning on the jobs, or applying for jobs. If you click on that, that gives us a list of welders, businesses that are looking to hire welders. And then we can click right on these blue links and actually start applying for jobs throughout the state of Minnesota. All of these other links, I think I'll let you look through them more on your own time. That's one of the takeaways, one of the things that I usually say with training sessions and using labor market information. Beyond knowing to keep your eye out for blue links and tabs, beyond knowing not to panic when you look at labor market data, that you might have these big data tables or graphs and figures that if you just take a little bit of time looking at the column headers, that you'll start to get what's going on pretty quick. Beyond those kind of general tips and tricks for labor market data, one more is that the more that you use these tools, the more that you'll become familiar with them. So keep checking these tools out, keep using them, keep trying different examples, and working with career seekers, and reaching out to us if you need any help at all. But with the wages, I'll just go through them pretty quick. Further links and just quick lookups of, in this case, occupational employment and wage statistics, job vacancy survey data, cost of living data for basic needs budgets for individuals and families. So we can get that quick comparative look at all of this type of wage data. Under demand, it's a pretty small page currently, but we can see that current and local demand from our Occupations in Demand tool, as well as a little bit finer look at employment projections through the next year for the state of Minnesota, or 10 years for the regions and the state of Minnesota. Education. This is going to provide a little bit more information on, for instance, typical education of people holding this job. So in this case, currently in the state of Minnesota, you can see that the vast majority of welders have some college no degree, high school diploma or equivalent, or even less than a high school diploma. So this is a job that does not typically require extensive levels of post-secondary education. But of course, if you're going for that related education, if you're going for those 2-year degrees or certifications, that's where you can get that leg up, working on your resume, working on your background, and then going for those jobs that have openings. Through this link, again, it's at the bottom at the top. We're in the education section. You can also see certifications that might be within this occupation. If there's any licensees, you can click on these here. There'll be blue links to learn more about the licensees there. And then also apprenticeships with a link to apprenticeshipsmn.com. Finally, we've looked at all of these now: overview, wages, demand, education, and applying for jobs. There's one more called on the job. And I just showed you a little brief overview of O-Net Online. Again, I'll provide all of these links to you after the presentation here today. But we took some of that information from O-Net and threw it into this data tool So you don't have to go all over the internet looking up labor market information. I would say maybe those top tools that you can look into are Occupations in Demand and then the Career and Education Explorer tool. So here we have those typical tasks, in this case for welders. Sometimes there'll be working conditions and then abilities. Very last thing about this tool, the Career and Education Explorer tool, under the On the Job section within the profile, you'll get these similar careers. And this is actually what our Match Jobs to Experience tool is all about. So you get a little bit of a teaser for that tool within the Career and Education Explorer tool. So you'll click on any of these blue links, seeing how their skills match up, in this case with welders. So if you've got job seekers or clients that not quite sure what they want to do, maybe you're looking into welders, what else is out there that's pretty close or something that I can also look into? You can see those lists of those jobs here. And again, that's in the On the Job section. So the Career and Education Explorer tool and the Occupations in Demand tool, just a ton of information, relative demand and specific information on occupations. And it's something where you can start to look up educational data, looking at post-secondary institutions or certifications. And it's something where you can also start to apply for specific occupations. So it's two great tools. We spent quite a bit of time on them. We've only got about 30 minutes left of our training here today, but I wanted to spend the most time on these two tools because they are some of the best career tools that we have, with information coming from some pretty powerful, extensive sources of labor market information. Does anybody have any questions at all on either Occupations in Demand, the Career and Education Explorer, or the links that they have?
Hey, Tim, I have a question. This is Natalie.
Hey, Natalie.
Hey, good to see you. I am wondering if any of the tools provide information about remote or hybrid work. I'm guessing others get this request a lot too, but yeah, we get that a lot.
Yeah, great. Thanks for the question.
Yeah.
Actually, so we're in the we happen to be in Career One Stop. It's the Career One Stop link here was that link through the Career and Education Explorer tool, and so I think it bears mentioning here, careeronestop.org. There's a lot of resources and toolkits and things like that within careeronestop.org. So definitely bookmark this one along with those labor market information tools that look at careers. But I'm saying this because the Career One Stop has some resources for looking into remote work as well. I'm actually not quite sure. I might have to do just a Google search here. Career One Stop remote work. So I'll throw this link out to all of you at the end of this presentation here. But yeah, you can see, want a job that doesn't require you to be on site? Remote jobs. So then you can do these keyword search for the job and where it might be located, and then seeing the jobs. And I think the theory here, the idea is that it scours through these job postings that are online, and it looks for those jobs that have mentioning of or specific examples of where remote work or flexible work schedules are mentioned within those job postings. So definitely, I'll throw the link in there for you, Natalie, and others, and hopefully this is a resource that can work out there. If you want more data on just like what are the share of jobs that are remote work or how's that trending over time, that's something that I can also help out with. So definitely reach out if you want more of the nuts and bolts on what we're seeing for the trends in terms of remote work too. And that also, going along with that, what are jobs that are going to be higher shares of having remote work available versus jobs that are going to have little or maybe no work that's available for remote work. So there's some pretty cool resources such as the new Occupational Requirements Survey, the ORS data tool that's available now through the Bureau of Labor Statistics that we can help you out with, looking at that kind of aspect of work too. So here's a resource through careeronestop.org, and I'll give you the link again that looks at actually applying for jobs that have the probability with that of having that remote work, but we can also help out with the data, kind of the trends in the background for occupations and industries that might have higher or lower shares of remote work available. Any other questions on occupations in demand or the Career and Education Explorer tool? Okay, so now that we're in Career One Stop, I think I'll just kind of scroll through it real quick here for all of you. If you're not familiar, careeronestop.org, actually a lot of folks headquartered right here in St. Paul, where DEED is located, that are working on careeronestop.org, but it has a lot of really great labor market information. And because we're focusing on those career tools, definitely bears looking into careeronestop.org. We actually supply them with a lot of labor market information through the state of Minnesota. It is a national tool in scope, so working very closely here with the U.S. Department of Labor, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, other labor market information offices in other states in the United States. But some of the great things that you can find in here, I'll just kind of mention them quick, are you can look up interest and skills assessments. You can look up some pretty cool videos and industry videos, looking at hot jobs or hot industries or things like that. You can look up schools and programs, scholarships and certifications, finding those entry points in those career pathways. And then you can also look at resources also available. I would say check out the DEED resources for the creative job search guides and careerforcemn.com. But Career One Stop, a lot of career focused titles here going on. Careeronestop.org also has these kind of resources available. And then check out, yes, of course, just like our website at DEED, there's a lot of resources available under the tabs that you see at the top. And so one that maybe bears more repeating is if you go into the toolkit, scrolling down, you'll see that there's this tool called My Skills, My Future. And you can actually go right to it at myskillsmyfuture.org. And this is a tool that actually, I've mentioned it before, and I'll show it in a second to kind of reiterate where you can find it, called Match Jobs to Experience through the DEED website. And this is a tool that's, I believe, in part based off of that tool that we created for the state of Minnesota. So in this case, let's say that, let's stick with welder. If we throw in welder here, and we hit the big red button, we've got the welder here. If that's not the keyword search, the job that you're looking for, hit the arrow here and find the one that you are looking for. Otherwise, this is a tool that's based off that job that you just selected. Here are some other careers below that might be a good match for that job seeker. Again, based off the skill sets and the job responsibilities, educational attainment, and so on. So maybe they were a welder and they want to look into something new. We can look into other similar occupations. And just like the DEED websites, keep your eye out for blue links and tabs. They're everywhere. So you can click on the blue links for the specific occupations here. You can watch videos. You can select comparable skills, job listings and businesses, find training, and then more information on everything from salaries to creating resumes and such. If we head on back, then these same lists, these same blue links are under the main link here once you search for a job. Last thing I'll say about this myskillsmyfuture.org resource is that, again, it's national in scope, so we can choose a new location, city, state, or zip code. Go within a certain distance, hit the go button, and then you'll see the job listings, the businesses, the wages, the education. All of that's now going to be filtered for that specific region that you have picked. And then you can also see narrow your results, and it's pretty cool in theory. I'm not quite sure how it works, but check it out. If you've got clients or job seekers that might have great or might not have great different areas that you see here, maybe public speaking or vision or hearing, you can select those, hit the show results, and then the theory is that it'll knock out those occupations that might be conflicting with those areas. So that's, again, through careeronestop.org. Great resource for career exploration, especially for students, I believe. You're probably thinking, why are these different sites? There's ONET Online, there's careeronestop.org, there's the DEED website with the labor market information tools that we have. There's another resource that I'll link to you as well at the end of the presentation called the Bureau of Labor Statistics Occupational Outlook Handbook. So you might be thinking, why are there all these tools? It's getting overwhelming, it's just too much. And I do believe that these tools there's a lot of different ones for the different audiences out there that are looking into the data. So for careeronestop.org, you can kind of already tell by looking at this website, seeing that there's videos and there's pictures. The information doesn't get too into the details, that this is a resource that is geared more towards students and job seekers. Meanwhile, ONET Online and especially the DEED resources through our Labor Market Information Office, these are going to be data tools that are geared towards analysts like myself, as well as employment counselors, or those that are helping out job seekers and career seekers, looking into the really fine data on wages and projections, on graduate employment outcomes or other educational data, and then getting that really comprehensive look, everything that you can glean from the data that we gather, and then helping out the job seekers and the clients as best as you can with the information that you can get. So just to kind of recap though, I know that we've gone through a lot in the 90 minutes that we've had so far here, but we went through a quick overview of Minnesota's labor markets. We went through navigating the DEED website, especially going through the data tab. I should also bear saying that there's a lot of great information for career exploration and helping out job seekers through the For Job Seekers tab as well, whether it's doing unemployment help, unemployment insurance, looking for work on job postings, and then links to careerforcemn.com. And finally, some targeted career resources for those with disabilities, veterans, and then the job search guide. One thing that you'll also see at the very bottom is that very same exact data for job seekers link that you see within the data tab, data for job seekers. So I'll head back onto this link then. And one more little recap too. We've gone through occupations in demand. We've gone through the Career and Education Explorer. And then we've also seen some links. You didn't even realize it, but we also saw some links to occupational employment and wage statistics. I did mention Match Jobs to Experience through that careeronestop.org resource called myskillsmyfuture.org. And I've just thrown out names and links left and right. Once more, I'll just say that I'll pass these links out to you after the presentation and training here today. But like myskillsmyfuture.org, our own website at mn.gov/deed/data, we have our own Match Jobs to Experience tool. So I'll click into this one real quick. There's not much to the About section. The main point to this tool, just like myskillsmyfuture.org, is to help out those that are maybe looking for something new. Maybe they were laid off from their job. Maybe they quit. They're looking for something new, and they've got these skills though and this background. So how can we put that to good use in looking for something new? So I'll click on Use the Data tool. And then this is very similar to some of the other tools that we've seen so far then. So keeping your eye out for those blue links, those keyword searches and the search buttons. We can look up that occupation as our first step, either by doing that keyword search, or you see here clicking on the plus signs under these 22 major occupational groups and then finding the specific job there. So let's say that we were looking up maybe a web developer. So we did it there, and we see the job that we selected at the very top. So we have web developers, and then here's those comparable occupations listed below. So this is where you see it's aesthetically a little bit different than the myskillsmyfuture.org, but in its organization, it's exactly the same. We've got the job that we wanted to look up at the top, and then we have those comparable occupations listed below. Then we just bonus data again, just like the occupations in demand tool with its main purpose of showing jobs in demand. And then it had that bonus data with wages and projections and educational attainment. Same kind of thing here. The main purpose of this tool, just having this list below of comparable occupations. And then the rest of these blue links in the data here, bonus data. So you've got the occupations in demand here, 1 through 5 stars. We've got the median wage listed for some of these occupations. And then you can click on any of these links here to find more information. So let's say that we were looking up web administrators. If we clicked on career profile, once more, just like that occupations in demand tool under the, remember the job title, the blue links there brought us on over to occupational employment and wage statistics. This one similarly brings us on over to the Career and Education Explorer tool. So we can do the on the job looking for education. We can start applying for jobs. So that's in the career profile. If you click on jobs then, we don't see any here, so there might be some issues with some links and stuff like that. But some links here to minnesotaworks.net. If you go to training then, this is that same link that you see under the, just kind of reiterating all these links and how they're all connected. But in the occupations in demand tool you saw under the education requirements, the same table is also available within Match Jobs to Experience. And then finally, the skills gap. And this is, it's a little bit funky, but it's giving you an idea of, you know, we have somebody that's coming to us, they were a web developer. We see that web administrators are highly related. Maybe it's something that we could go for. But what are some areas where we might be underqualified, where we might be overqualified, and where our skills match? And then these numbers here, and then looking at the, clicking on that question mark, they give us an idea of how big that skills gap might be between those two occupations. But yes, Match Jobs to Experience, right here. A great tool to add into the toolbox of labor market information tools for career seekers, along with occupations in demand and the Career and Education Explorer tool that can really help out. These three tools, I believe, Match Jobs to Experience, occupations in demand, and Career and Education Explorer, for looking up what are those jobs in demand and digging into them further to learn more about educational pathways, career pathways, wages, all of it. So it's probably the three main tools worth looking into for career exploration. Any questions so far? After going through occupations in demand and the Career and Education Explorer, we went through careeronestop.org. We went through the myskillsmyfuture.org and also Match Jobs to Experience. So I'll pause for just a moment to see if there's any questions on any of the information I talked about.
That tool, the Match Jobs to Experience, is awesome, and it's going to save me a lot of time. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks, Laura. Yeah, so keep using Match Jobs to Experience. And then, yeah, if you want to check out that myskillsmyfuture.org as well. It's a great one too, where it can expand upon Match Jobs to Experience one more time, you know, knowing that you can look up zip codes or cities or states outside of Minnesota. And I don't want to, you know, promote, oh, look for work outside of Minnesota. I want you all to be here. But that could be a tool if you're thinking outside the box, helping out job seekers. There might be some other opportunities out there. Hearing no other questions at this time, I am going to get into one kind of data heavy tool, just because it's so popular and we've seen it. We've seen it in the Career and Education Explorer tool. We've seen it in Occupations in Demand. It's the Occupational Employment and Wage Statistics tool. So this tool it's powerful stuff. It's updated annually. And it's a tool that can be a little bit tedious, but once you get to the information, it's excellent information. Some of the best, I would say the best. I suppose I'm being biased, but if you're looking at the methodology, it is the best for looking up wages for occupations across the state and its regions. With this tool, you can read all about it, just like our other tools, looking at the methodology, more data, looking up wages maybe in the past or for other states in the nation here. You can do Tableau. Some of our data tools do have this more interactive page up front that is a little bit more interactive than if you're actually enter the tool itself. I welcome you to check this out if you want to, but I'm going to actually use the data tool now. So I'm going to blow this down, zoom out a little bit just to show you how it's set up, and then I'll go back in. So this is a tool. It's got those same steps that we've seen in some other data tools where you're picking a geography or you might be picking an occupation. It's just set up a little different. In this case, you'll be picking your geography at the top. You'll be hitting the go button. You'll be selecting your occupation. So once you do the go button, you're updating the geographies. Those will automatically update in the table below right here. You do see that we default to Minnesota and the United States. And I'll show you an example of how to use this tool, but I just wanted to zoom out real quick. I know this font is super teeny tiny, but I just wanted to show you that this is how it's set up with the geographies at the top, and then some occupational searching either through keyword or again through the occupational groups. So now I'll zoom in a little bit. I'm going to select, let's say I want to look at the state, and I want to look at the 7-county metro and maybe Northwest Minnesota. You can also look at the economic development regions, metropolitan statistical areas, or the balance of the states. These are pretty big rural areas. If you don't know what these regions mean again, you can click on Find Region Definitions. Or if you remember from the very beginning of our training here, if you go to LMI Help from the main DEED website, you'll find the geographic regions in that section too. So we've selected the state, we've selected Northwest Minnesota and the 7-county metro. Remember the Go buttons or Get Filtered Results buttons. So I'll go ahead and select Go. And then you'll see that the table below updated to just show those geographies that we picked. So Minnesota, the 7-county metro, and Northwest Minnesota. You can actually see some of that data right up front, especially for the occupational groups that are highlighted here. You can see either the median wages, just a quick glance at those, or even total employment if you want to look at that. From here, though, your probably main purposes are to look at specific occupations. So you can either do that keyword search, or you can click on these little, it's not intuitive, but if you click on these little arrows here on the left-hand side of the screen, it'll open that occupational group up to those specific 6-digit SOC codes. So remember ONET Online, you don't know where to find like maybe a web developer. What SOC code is it if you're searching this way? You can go to ONET Online, quick keyword search for web developer or whatever occupation you're looking for. And then you'll see the 6-digit SOC codes that it has. You can head back on over to our data tools and know that you're using the same exact occupational titles. I'm going to do a keyword search though. So let's say I'm looking up, what should I look up? I'll look up registered nurse. I'll hit the search button. Just like some of our other tools, like the Career and Education Explorer tool, keep your eye out also for the drop-down menus. So I'll highlight the drop-down menu here and then select registered nurses. Once you do that, still you have to hit the search button. And then from there, rather than clicking on those little black arrows and looking for the specific occupations, trial and error, it might take you a while. You can find your specific occupation right away. So I'll click on the blue link here. And then this is a page that we've seen before now, even in this training session. So this was linked through the Occupations in Demand tool, if you remember that, under the job title column. So this is going to that data right away. So you've got registered nurses here. You've got the description for the tool. You've got, actually see, let's go back to the search page here. I see that it's here. So we've got the Minnesota, 7-county metro, Northwest Minnesota. I clicked on registered nurse. Oh, there it is. So now we have them here, those geographies. If you're following along, I saw that it only included Minnesota before. So sometimes you might have to reload. Hopefully that's not an issue. We just updated this data tool again about 2 weeks ago for the first quarter of 2024. So the regional analysts like myself, we try to go through these tools really quickly to look out for any errors or any issues. With that in mind, if you do run into any, again, like NAs or no data available, or if you're not finding anything, or if you're running into errors, reach out to us and we'll look into it for you. But this is that main occupational employment and wage statistics tool. Again, really popular both for job seekers, for employment counselors, and for businesses that are looking to benchmark or hire, and what are the wages that they might be looking into. But I already showed you this tool and kind of navigating through the different tables that are available, links to other occupational profiles, and then information that we include in here from ONET Online. So I'm not going to look into this tool any more than I already have, but I did want to show you that because it's such a popular tool, when you do go into the Occupational Employment and Wage Statistics, or OEWS tool, clicking on the Use the Data tool button here, I did want to show you actually how to navigate within this tool, looking at the different geographies, hitting the Go button, and then searching for the occupations either through, as you've now started to discover some patterns with labor market information tools, keyword searches, or looking through the occupational groups. Does anybody have any questions on occupational employment and wage statistics? Okay, so with the remaining time that we have, I do want to save some time at the very end. I'll stop screen sharing and see if anyone's still here. But under the data for job seekers, one more kind of reiteration and summary of what we've done so far. We've done Career and Education Explorer and Occupations in Demand at the very beginning there. We looked at match jobs to experience. From there, we saw that there were links from some of these tools to careeronestop.org, and I gave you a little quick look at MySkills, myfuture.org as well. But I would also, I'll give you the links for ONET and careeronestop.org. There's a lot of great career resources in there that are worth looking into, including things like skills assessments and interest assessments, and then educational information. We then also took a quick look here at occupational employment and wage statistics. Again, one of our more popular tools, with wages being a huge thing recently, looking at inflation or looking at wage increases or just what are starting and median wages for occupations. It's a great tool, a good tool to know about and how to navigate. CareerForceMN.com, check that out, and LMI Help if you want to reach out to us. The other information that you can see here that's career data, I'm not going to go into it too much here, but I just wanted to show you that we do have, for instance, Employment Outlook data. And this is data that we will update every other year for the 10-year projections. And we update it every year for 1-year projections. So every year for 1-year projections, every other year for 10-year projections. And just a quick look, it's a data tool that's very similar where you get this huge data table, but keep your eye out for that Start New Search button. And then it's set up just exactly the same pretty much as all of our other data tools, where keep your eye out for blue links and tabs and drop-down menus and geographic options. So then you just would go ahead and look into the data there, and then looking up the job titles either through a keyword search or those occupational groups here. So just a quick example of looking through that information there. And then this is data that you've seen before in those Occupations in Demand or Career and Education Explorer tools, what the percentage growth. And then in this case, it does break it out a little bit more with looking at both net new growth, labor market exit openings or those replacement openings, and then some other options here as well. So that's Employment Outlook. Again, a lot of this data available both in Occupations in Demand and the Career and Education Explorer tool. And then finally, second to finally, graduate employment outcomes. I'm not going to go into this data too much, but definitely let me know if you want me to help you out with what this data can tell us. There's a lot of information that you can glean from this about what are the typical outcomes for different programs like history major or construction trades or English or psychology or things like that, looking at different programs and different schools and how are those graduates doing in terms of wages and what industries they're working in and what regions they're working in 2 years after completing their degree through 8 years after completing their degree. So there's a lot to this tool, and I'm not going to go into it with the time that we have remaining, but you would just click right on the data tool, and then like a lot of our others, you're overwhelmed with information, but just take your time, look through it. If you have any questions at all, reach out to me. And then finally, path to career success, and then career pathways. Career pathways is a tool that looks at those career clusters. So if you're helping out students, especially, a lot of high schools and such are looking into these different career clusters and how occupations are within those specific career clusters. So for example, if we're looking at architecture and construction, we can click on any of these icons, and then it'll give us those specific occupations, their demand, what you see here, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, educational requirements, wages and employment. And then you see if you're hovering over any of these bars, there's a little bit more information on them. And then the path to career success. This is a great resource, again, for students and for educators with some videos and with some regional handouts and such for what are we seeing for career pathways within the state of Minnesota and its regions. But with that, I believe we've made it through. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Actually going to stop the recording.